The rain fell over the city like a curtain of secrets, blurring the neon lights and muffling the sound of distant traffic. In the shadows of the towering building stood a man who ruled the underworld with a quiet authority that made even the most ruthless criminals step aside when he walked past. His name was Adrian Volkov, a mafia boss whose reputation traveled through whispered conversations in smoky backrooms and dimly lit bars. People said Adrian had ice in his veins and steel in his heart. He was the kind of man who made impossible decisions without hesitation, the kind of man who built an empire where others barely survived. Yet on this particular night, Adrian Volkov was not thinking about business deals, rival gangs, or the endless game of power that defined his life. Tonight, he was thinking about love. Adrian rarely allowed emotions to interfere with his decisions, but Elena Carter had somehow broken through the fortress around his heart. She wasn't like the people who usually surrounded him. She wasn't interested in money, power, or influence. She had met him months earlier at a charity event where Adrian had attended purely for appearances. Elena had spoken to him like he was a normal man, not a feared figure of the criminal world. Her calm confidence, warm laughter, and fearless honesty had fascinated him in a way no one ever had. Slowly, carefully, Adrian had allowed himself to fall in love with her. And to everyone's shock, including his own, he had proposed. Their engagement had become quiet news among those close to Adrian. Many of his men didn't know how to react. The man who had once destroyed an entire criminal syndicate in a single night was now planning wedding venues and future vacations. But Adrian didn't care what anyone thought. Elena made him believe there was a life beyond darkness. Tonight, he had planned something special. Adrian sat in the back seat of his black car, watching raindrops race down the window. In his hand was a small velvet box containing a diamond necklace he had chosen himself. It wasn't about the price, Adrian had more money than he could ever spend. What mattered was the meaning. Elena loved simple things, music, quiet dinners, walks by the river, and Adrian wanted to show her that he paid attention. He had told Elena earlier that he would be working late, which made the surprise even better. His plan was simple. He would arrive at her apartment, bring flowers, cook dinner himself, and give her the necklace afterward. It was the kind of ordinary romantic evening most people took for granted. For Adrian Volkov, it felt like the most daring mission he had ever attempted. The driver glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "We're almost there, boss." Adrian nodded quietly. As the car turned into Elena's street, Adrian felt an unfamiliar nervousness in his chest. The powerful mafia boss who negotiated with dangerous men every day suddenly felt like a young man preparing for his first date. It almost made him smile. The car stopped near Elena's apartment building. "I'll go alone," Adrian said calmly. His bodyguards exchanged looks but nodded. They were used to protecting him at all times, yet they also knew Elena was different. Adrian trusted her completely. Stepping out of the car, Adrian pulled his coat tighter against the rain and walked toward the building entrance. The streets were unusually quiet tonight, the kind of quiet that felt peaceful rather than threatening. For once, Adrian welcomed the silence. He imagined Elena's reaction when she saw him standing at her door with flowers and dinner ingredients. She would laugh in that soft way she had, shake her head at his dramatic gestures, and pull him inside out of the rain. That thought alone made the night feel warmer. Adrian entered the building and walked toward the elevator. As the doors closed, he checked the time. Elena should already be home from work. Perfect. The elevator climbed slowly. Floor 2. Floor 3. Floor 4. Each second built anticipation inside him. Finally, the doors opened. Elena's apartment was at the end of the hallway. Adrian walked quietly, holding the flowers carefully so they wouldn't get wet from the rain dripping off his coat. But as he approached the door, something strange happened. He heard voices. Adrian slowed his steps. At first he thought Elena might be on the phone. But then he realized something else. There were two voices. One of them was Elena's. The other was a man's. Adrian stopped completely. A cold feeling crept through his chest. It wasn't jealousy, Adrian wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. But something about the tone of the conversation made his instincts sharpen. Years of surviving in the criminal world had trained him to detect danger in the smallest details. The door wasn't fully closed. It was slightly open. Just enough for voices to slip through. Adrian stepped closer, silently, his heart now beating with a completely different rhythm than before. Inside the apartment, Elena was speaking, her voice tense. "You said no one would find out." Adrian felt his entire body freeze. The man responded quietly, his voice unfamiliar. "They won't. But we have to move soon." Adrian's mind began racing. "Move? Move where?" Elena spoke again. "You don't understand. Adrian trusts me. If he finds out..." The man interrupted. "He won't. That's the whole point." Adrian's fingers slowly tightened around the velvet box. Trust. That word echoed in his mind. For the first time in years, Adrian Volkov felt something dangerously close to fear. But it wasn't fear of enemies. It was fear of betrayal. Inside the apartment, the conversation continued. "Are you sure this will work?" Elena asked. The man chuckled softly. "It has to. Once everything is done, Adrian Volkov's empire will fall overnight." Adrian's heart stopped. For a moment, he wondered if he had heard wrong. But the man's next words removed all doubt. "And thanks to you, we'll finally destroy him." Adrian stood outside the door in complete silence. The rain outside the building continued falling. Inside the hallway, time itself seemed to stop. The flowers slowly slipped from Adrian's hand and fell to the floor. And for the first time in his life, the most feared mafia boss in the city didn't know what to do next.